You walk into the room with absolute proof. The texts, the timestamp, the broken promise. You have a documented grievance and the moral high ground. The facts are clear. But before you can even finish laying out those facts, the person you're confronting tilts their head and asks a simple question. So you're saying you don't trust me? Right then, you feel a small, disorienting lurch. The floor drops out from under you. The topic has changed, but your body hasn't caught up. 20 minutes later, you are exhausted. The missing hours or the broken promise haven't been mentioned once. Instead, you are frantically listing all the times you gave them space, defending your own character, and eventually apologizing for coming in hot. You didn't lose the argument you walked in with. That argument was quietly lifted out of the room. It was replaced entirely while you were distracted by the question. 5 small words can swap a valid complaint for a character trial. Within seconds, the person who did the harm is standing back, watching you prosecute yourself. Logicians call this trap a loaded question. It looks like an inquiry, but it carries a smuggled claim, a presupposition you never agreed to, riding along inside the grammar as if it were already settled fact. The classic example is centuries old. Have you stopped beating your wife? Say yes, and you confess that you used to. Say no, and you confess that you still do. There is no clean exit, because the sentence is an accusation wearing a question mark. So you're saying you don't trust me? Carries the same hidden cargo. To answer it at all, you have to step into a world where the subject is your trust, your character, and your failure to give the benefit of the doubt. A loaded question never asks for information. It is a structural mechanism designed to do one thing: extract a concession of guilt. In any valid argument, the burden of proof sits with the person who did the harm. They did the thing. They owe the explanation. The scale is heavy on their side. The loaded question silently picks that burden up and drops it in your lap. A moment ago, they had to explain their behavior. Now you have to disprove a charge about your own heart. And a charge about your heart is impossible to disprove. There is always one more reassurance you could offer to show you are warm and fair. So you keep talking. You keep producing evidence for the defense. You see this in offices all the time. An employee points out a broken promise for a promotion, and the manager asks, "Are you really this focused on titles instead of the work?" To prove they care about the work, the employee spends the rest of the meeting reassuring the manager they are a team player. The broken promise is permanently erased. Every single sentence you offer in your defense actively pulls you deeper into their frame and further away from the valid point you arrived with. Psychologists have a term for this disorienting lurch. They call it DARVO: deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. First, deny the behavior. Second, attack the person confronting you. Third, reverse the roles entirely. The loaded question is DARVO folded down into a single breath. So you're saying you don't trust me? Denies nothing directly, attacks softly, and instantly transforms the person raising the harm into the aggressor. Smart, careful people fall for this because the maneuver exploits our oldest wiring. As children, we are taught that answering questions is how we prove we are cooperative and have nothing to hide. Refusing to answer reads as guilt. The manipulator doesn't overpower you. They recruit you. They hand you the frame and let your polite reflexes and decency build the case against yourself. This maneuver targets your willingness to speak up in the first place. By turning every grievance into a trial of your character, the manipulator aims for your long-term silence. If every time you raise a legitimate issue, you end up exhausted and defending your own decency, you eventually stop raising issues. It costs too much. You learn to swallow the complaint whole. This tactic relies on an existing imbalance of power. It uses the authority of a manager or the confidence of a partner as fuel. It lands hardest when you are already unsure of your standing in the room. When raising a concern always leads to a trial of your character, you eventually learn that peace only comes from keeping the problem to yourself. A grievance you've trained yourself not to voice is one they never have to answer. To beat it, watch your body, not their tone. The warning sign is a tight chest. It's the anxious rush to reassure. It's the exact instant you hear yourself say, "No, it's not that I..." The moment you feel that physical cue, stop speaking. That opening phrase is the sound of you accepting the premise. entering a trial you did not agree to attend. You have to decline the frame, refuse to choose between the yes or no options provided. That's a separate conversation. Let's talk about tonight. You set their claim down and walk straight back to your original factual grievance. You need to drill this specific response in advance. Under pressure, human beings do not rise to the occasion. We default to our childhood reflex to over-explain. Hand yourself a prepared line so you have something automatic to fall back on. By recognizing the shifting frame and refusing to sit down in the defendant's chair, you force the burden of proof exactly where it belongs. You reclaim reality.